Hey, I'm Floris and I'm from Dutch Realtor Training. And in this video I'd like to explain to you how the Dutch deed of purchase, the Dutch purchase agreements or koopovereenkomst or koopakte works. Now, I have recorded a video like this before in Dutch. And when I was doing that, I have some terrible directors and editors walking around here, and they were really mean to me. They said like, it's taking you too long. So I have made a challenge with myself, because I'm going to explain to you this deed of purchase in, what shall we say, guys?
30 minutes?
30? No, I'm going to do it in like 22 minutes. Okay. 22 minutes. Ready? So you have to stay focused as a viewer of this video because we're going fast, but I make it as easy as possible. 22 minutes and counting. All right, guys. So congratulations with the purchase or selling of the house you just did. Or maybe you're a real estate agent and you sold it or you bought it. So this purchase agreement is always in Dutch. That's obligated by Dutch law. We don't have it in English. We have an English explanation, but don't read it because you won't understand it. Just watch this video. All right, here we go. So in the beginning we have the seller, verkopers, and we have the buyers. Make sure you check all your details, that they are correct. Yeah, your date of birth, etc., etc. Then we go to Article 1, and that's a really important article because what have we just purchased or what have we just bought? In this example, we have sold the Voorbeeldstraat number 1 in Haarlem. But that's very important because a lot of mistakes are being made that there's more that belongs to this property. Maybe there are some extra plots, some extra pieces of land or garden that belong to this property. Maybe there's a garage box, maybe there's a parking place that belongs to this property. A lot of times this is forgotten to put it in Article 1. So make sure you really double check that. Article 2 is about the buyer cost. If you buy a house in the Netherlands, in most cases it's always that the cost for the notary and the land registry cost are for the buyer. That's what Article 2 says. In most cases, the notary can be picked by the buyer. That's Article 2.1. Article 2.2 is in most cases not applicable. But if you own a house or an apartment in the Netherlands for not longer than 6 months, if you sell it within 6 months and you're not longer than 6 months the owner of the property, that's very important, then you can get back the property tax that you paid before. Article 2.2 says that if that's the case here, so if the seller is selling it within being an owner of the property for not longer than 6 months, you as a buyer will cooperate in him getting the property tax back. Long story short, you can basically ignore this article. Article 3 is the payment. All payments go through the notary. So that's also the notary cost itself, but also for your real estate agent. The notary is basically like a one-stop shop where all payments go through him or her. Article 4 is very important because there we say, okay, there's a certain date. In this case, it's the 1st of October. And on that date, we have the delivery. You can always, in good consultation, with a written agreement, make a deal with the seller or the buyer to do it earlier or later. But this date is a fixed date. I mean, if nothing else is taken care of, then this is legally a very important date, 1st of October in this example. Article 5 is about the deposit, because a buyer of a property in Holland pays, in most cases, 10% deposit. In this case, the purchase price was 500,000, so he pays 50,000 euros of deposit. You can also do like a bank guarantee, but that costs money, and I see in most cases that just a deposit is being paid. It's being paid to the notary and a safe bank account of the notary. So nothing can happen with that money. Well, nothing yet. I'll explain a little bit later about that. Make sure that you understand that this deposit in most cases is being paid by the bank where the buyer is getting the mortgage, But if you have a lot of savings, you can discuss with your mortgage advisor just to pay it out of your savings account. Am I doing good? We're on schedule. All right. Article 6. Article 6 is a really important article with lots of legal disclaimers. I'm going to make it real easy for you. The seller of the property is covering basically his own ass for a lot of things. First, the seller in most cases is saying, I know nothing about pollution in the soil of the property. I know nothing about asbestos. I know nothing about any claims that are in this property. Or the seller says, well, yeah, I know something about asbestos. I mean, there's like an asbestos roof on the shed. In that case, you will mention it here in Article 6. You will recognize that by if something is actually going on with the following words. You will see it in Article 671. Aan koper is bekend. Aan koper is bekend. In that case, something might be wrong or needs attention. Well, don't worry about this. In this case, in Article 671, it says that it's known to you as the buyer that this is actually like a monument. And if it's like a monument, it means you cannot just change anything about the property. So that's just good to know that you just try to search for, is there anything that should be aan koper bekend, known to buyer, that needs your attention. You can also use the Google Translate app for that, to real life translate it, or if hopefully you have a purchasing real estate agent that helps you understand this. All right, so yeah, let's skip to Article 7. Article 7 basically says, okay, what's being sold, and is there any tenants or any lease or stuff in the property? Well, if you buy a property with tenants, you should read it in Article 7. Of course, in most cases, this is not applicable. In this example, we say that there's like a cv-ketel, it's like a heating boiler, that's not owned by the current owners, but it's a lease. That means that the lease of that boiler is being transferred to that lease contract to the buyers of this property. So it might be still like a 5-year contract for 40 euros a month, for example. All right. Article 7 also says that if there's any guarantees, for example, like there's a new heating boiler, there's a new roof extension, or there's a new dishwasher, and if there's still guarantee on all those kind of things, these guarantees go over to the new owners, to the buyers of that property. So that's why it's also important that the current owners, if they have any invoices or guarantee papers, that they just leave it in the property and give it to the new owners. Article 8 basically means the following. I've mentioned before that the notary is like a one-stop shop. On the day of the delivery, in this case 1st of October, there's a settlement for the municipality and the water tax costs. So let's say whatever, if that's 600 euros a year, and if you have the delivery on 1st of October, then you know the new buyers, they are paying for those costs for another 3 months. That's being settled by the notary. Article 9 basically means the following. If you are buying this property with your girlfriend and you're so much in love, and you know you're going to the bar, and what happens? You see your girlfriend kissing with another guy, and you get really angry. You say, "I break up with you," but you have just bought a property, and the legal cooling down period is over. I'm sorry, but you're stuck to it. Even though you hate your ex-girlfriend, you're stuck to this purchase, and she's stuck to this purchase. That's what we call hoofdelijkheid. So you're both responsible for what you're just signing. But the same is for sellers. So if they break up, or they have some kind of relationship drama, they are also both obligated to this purchase agreement. We're going schedule, guys. Nice. So Article 10, that's about risico-overgang. Any damages that can happen between the moment of signing this deed of purchase and the moment of the delivery. So what you see a lot is that a dishwasher breaks down, or any leakages occur, or whatever can be damaged in the property. Maybe a broken window. The current owners are still, of course, responsible of fixing that. Now, that's all clear, but what happens if the whole house burns down to the ground? In that case, this purchase agreement is legally being cancelled. It's legally being stopped, unless the buyers say, you know what? I know it burned down to the ground, but anyway, give it to us anyway. And why would the buyers do that? Well, because then they also have to write for the payment of the fire insurance. So if the fire insurance gives like whatever, 500,000 euros, maybe they can build a new house with that. I've never seen that happening, but anyway, just for you to understand how this works. Then we go to Article 11. And remember that the buyers paid a 10% deposit to the notary or a bank guarantee. Well, here is where it comes in handy. This article is very, very simple to explain. The sellers, they have one main obligation when it comes to selling of this property. And the one main obligation for the sellers is to deliver this house at the notary office to the buyers on the 1st of October. That's all. Just to deliver the house in good condition, no tenants in it, in a good shape, just as discussed, with all the takeover items, the lamps, the curtains, whatever was supposed to stay behind. That's it. Now the buyers, they have two main obligations. And the first main obligation is to be at the notary or to have a power of attorney and to take the property by signing the deed of delivery. That's the first obligation. And the second obligation is to pay for the property. Now, if one of the two parties, the buyer or the seller, doesn't do this, doesn't follow their obligation, then they need to pay a 10% fine to the other party. That's it. So for the seller, that's easy because the buyer have just, paid a 10% deposit to the notary. So that's all safe. The notary needs to pay then the 10% to the sellers. It's a bit harder if the seller doesn't deliver the property to get a 10%, but he is obligated to pay so. Now, what you could do is, there's something else that you could do. You have to understand that if the buyer doesn't pay for the property, he doesn't have the money, he doesn't have the mortgage, then also something else could happen. The seller could demand the following. He could say, you know what? I'm not stopping this deal. I'm not getting the 10%. No, you're fine. I'm just asking a 3 promille fine a day of the purchase price, as long as you're not paying for the property. So if the property is like 100,000 euros, just for the sake of argument, that's like 900 euros fine a day, up to the moment where the 10% of the purchase price is fully being paid in fines. So yeah, what you really need to remember is really important to have a close eye on your mortgage, that you know that you can actually get it mortgaged, or if you buy something without financial conditions, that you have some kind of a backup. Article 12 is not very important. It's more that the address of the notary office, that's the official legal correspondence address in case one of the two parties is not at home. Article 13 is about registration of this purchase agreement. You could, both parties could register this purchase agreement at the Dutch Land Registry. And long story short, it gives protection. It's an extra insurance basically in case something goes wrong. Long story short, what could possibly go wrong if, for example, sellers have like gambling problems or have debt collectors chasing them or are in some kind of legal dispute with a contractor somewhere. Someone could put a claim, we call it beslag in Dutch, beslag, on their current property. If there's like a beslag in the Dutch Land Registry on this current property, then nothing can happen with the property. It cannot be transferred to the buyers. So as a buyers, you can register this purchase agreement and it gives you protection. It's like shotgun, as I call it, where nobody can touch this property anymore. We're going nice, right? Okay. So Article 14, if you go to a notary, what will we bring? Our passports, of course, or identifications, but just bring all of them and make sure they're valid, guys. A lot of times people bring passports to the notary and they're not valid anymore, and then we have a problem. So, Article 15 is about the what we call ontbindende voorwaarden, conditions where you as a buyer can stop this purchase. And of course, the most common one is the financial condition. So in this case, we bought a property of 500,000 euros and there's a financial condition of only 450,000 euros. And they have until the 12th of August to get that mortgage. If they fail to get a mortgage, if the buyers fail to get a mortgage, then they actually need to make sure that they have a neglection letter, an official neglection letter, we call it afwijsbrief, of a bank. But in addition to that, it could also be that there needs more proof to be sent to the selling party to show that were able to get this mortgage. And in this case, it's here in bold text saying that they're demanding the complete mortgage request. So it's very important just for you to understand that if your client or if you as a buyer are not able to get the mortgage, to really look closely at Article 15 here and see what you have to send the selling party in able to be able to, cancel this purchase. There is something in Article 15.2 mentioned about a wetvolkersrecht gemeente, which is a bit too complicated to explain here, but long story short, in very rare cases, the municipality could have like a right to where the sellers of a house had to offer the property they wanted to sell to the municipality first. You rarely see this, but if that's the case, this could be like a condition to stop this purchase. All right, cooling down period, Article 16. I'm not going to explain to you that. That's another video. But long story short, there is a cooling down period. So where buyers can just cancel this deal. It's important to understand that because people think it's 3 days, but it may even take 7 or 8 days, really depending on if it's Christmas or King's Day or whatever. I think it's about time for champagne, right, guys? Right. I mean, wow. Just thanks. Nice. This was kind of, the purchase agreement. We have we have a good deal. Everything is done. Everybody's signing. So time to party, right? No, of course not time to party. Why is it always that people are drinking champagne when they purchase the property? Don't do that. You can drink champagne when you have the keys from the notary, but not now, guys. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. So just don't do that. First, we need to sign this purchase agreement because there's a written obligation. We call it schriftelijkheidsvereiste. Without this contract being signed, there's nothing sold, nothing purchased. So you need a signature from all parties. Then there's the cooling down period. And also, if the sellers have signed this purchase agreement, then in this case, and that's what Article 17.2 says, the buyer still have 3 days, or sometimes 5 days, sometimes 8 days, it's basically what's written here, to sign this purchase agreement. Lots of stuff can go wrong. Also, when the cooling down period is over, the mortgage can fail, the sellers can sell the property illegally to another person, so don't drink champagne, please. Article 18, Dutch law is applicable on the contract. Article 19, there's lots of attachments that that belong to this purchase, where the list of items is a very important attachment, and that's where it says, you know, the lamps are taken over, or this table was a takeover item, and it's, you know, it has to stay behind. It was included in the purchase. There is like a questionnaire with all kinds of questions about the property. For example, is the gas stove malfunctioning, or is there a leakage, or is there a problem with mice, or you know, maybe the shed is just 10 centimeters on the neighbor's property. Doesn't happen? It happens all day, stuff like that. So the questionnaire is a very important attachment where the sellers are covering their ass, but nobody reads the questionnaire. So make sure you read it, make sure you know what you're buying. All right, then in this case, in Article 20, we have agreed that the takeover items, such as this table, from the list of items, are included in the purchase. So make sure that the sellers, when they're moving out, they take a look at the list of items, take a look at the purchase agreement, and check what has to stay behind. A lot of times, like, curtains are missing, takeover items are missing, and then it's not going to be a big celebration moment at the notary. And you just want to drink champagne, right? No, you can't, still not. So don't drink champagne, wait until everything is fine and you left the notary. And then, when you have a cool bottle of champagne, pop it open at the evening. Well, we're almost there. How much time do I have? I have 29 seconds. All right. Every house that's older than 2005, there's asbestos clause. Don't make trouble about it. It's just there. It's always there. And every house, there's like an environmental clause. We call it milieuclausule. And every house older than 10 years, there's like an elderly clause. That's it. I wish you all best of luck, and thank you for watching this video. Just in time. See you later, guys.